Blended workforces are one of the hottest talent strategies today, where employers are using a mix of traditional employees with external resources like independent contractors, coaches, consultants, vendors, and technology solutions, all in order to enhance competitiveness, ensure cost flexibility, and expedite business goals. But how are the successful companies infusing blended workforces into their business strategy? And what are the critical success factors and pitfalls to avoid during implementation? And on the flip side, what does it really take for suppliers to improve their chances of finding and landing contract opportunities? The devil is in the details, my friends. I'm your host, Karen Farrell Rhodes, and it's time to get smarter about blended workforces at work. Hey there, my superstars. Welcome back to another episode of the Blended Workforces at Work podcast. We have a tremendous show in store for you today. As you know, the way we define blended workforces, that whole equation involves traditional employees, vendors and suppliers, and technology. Anyone who touches the way of how the world of work gets done. And today we have a fantastic example, a company who helps to use technology to help employees themselves become more efficient and have less overwhelm, and just make their lives better, which in turn reaps benefits for employers. So they actually touch multiple sections of the blended workforce space. And we're thrilled to feature today Emily Johnson, who is the co-founder and chief product officer at Overalls, which is a company which provides a service called Life Concierge. And when I tell you all of us need that, that's all of us need that, including me. But Life Concierge is designed to save employees time by tackling, life's complicated and time-consuming tasks that create some of that overwhelm and stress and takes a serious toll on productivity, which in turn affects employers. And I know I probably did not do it anywhere in justice explaining what the company does, but we had a chance to read over the company website and overview and what they're doing. I just knew we needed to have Emily on the show. So welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, we're such an honor to have you. I can't wait to dig into your company and how it serves the world of work, if you will. But before we do so, we always love to learn a little bit more about our guests. So for just as much as you feel comfortable, would you mind giving us a sneak peek into your life outside of work?
Sure. So I am a busy mom. I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I live outside of New York. So try to get into the city as much as I can, but, do live in the world of children as well.
Sure.
And a lot of people find it interesting that before I was in tech, I was a writer. I was a journalist and I did an MFA in creative nonfiction writing,
Wow.
and then ended up sort of serendipitously landing in tech about 15 years ago. So I have been trying to get back to writing a little bit lately and make time for that.
Wow, multifaceted you are, I tell you. That's amazing. And what good ages for your kids? I bet you're enjoying life and trying to juggle all of their schedules, huh?
Yeah, they're fun, but it's definitely going from the pandemic to, now we had nothing scheduled to constant scheduling. It's
What a change. What an
yeah,
evolution.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, you're still smiling for those who are watching on the YouTube channel, and so you've lived to tell the story as of now, anyways. We'll wish you great thoughts ongoing to help balance. But yeah, we're absolutely thrilled to have you on the show today. So let's start out, Emily, by you just giving a high level overview, some of your experiences before Overalls, and then let's transition into what Overalls is, what it actually does, and how it services a variety of areas in the world of work.
Sure. So the world of tech is a little bit, I guess, chaotic maybe to people outside. My in-laws are New York City teacher and Subway employee, and so the same job for 30 years, and you retire with a pension. Like I said, I
Kind
landed
of
a little bit.
tech.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing now. My mother-in-law's in Antarctica currently,
Oh,
literally.
wow.
Yeah, traveling the world. But so I joined a company called AppNexus, which was an ad tech company in New York. And it was one of the first big New York startup success stories in 2008. And I was in ad tech for a while and then, have done a variety of things, but landed in, I'm really interested in personal finance and which is actually really related to overalls because it's an area where, it's a really confusing, complicated world of like, how do I manage my money? How do I build wealth? How do I save it? Like, what tax breaks are there? And I feel like people are really sort of just left on their own to handle it. And so that's one of the many areas where Overalls wants to help. But so through that, I got into digital life insurance. And so worked on building out, making it really easy to get access to term life insurance, which is another product that people really need, but don't know that much about. And so I ended up connecting with Overalls was started by a venture capital studio, which is just, instead of us going and building a company in our basement on the side and then going out and raising money, the venture capital studio looks at various market opportunities and business ideas and does some research and groundwork. And then if they decide there's an opportunity there, they go out and they create a founding team. So I joined them before the company was officially founded. And it was really started as an insurance wallet, actually. So the
Really?
idea was, yeah, I mean, in some ways it seems like a weird shift, but then we keep coming back to the same themes we had from the start, which is interesting. So we started out as you go to work and you get your health insurance, and that's the vast majority of your benefits that you're really like focused on and looking at and using and understanding. But then you have this hodgepodge of other benefits like life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, just all kinds of weird stuff that maybe you have to opt into and pay for. Maybe you get it for free, but you don't really know what it is and you don't know if you should buy it and you don't know how
Right.
to use it or when you use it. And so we were going to be a digital insurance wallet that offers those supplementary voluntary, benefits as like a much easier to understand and consume package. And then also you can add on your personal insurance, like your home, auto, life insurance outside of work, and make sure that you're sort of appropriately covered, not paying too much, not undercovered.
So you look at it holistically all in one.
Yeah. And I still love that. I love it. But we had a feature that we called hassle helpers where we would help you make claims. We'd help you understand when a claim was, like I broke my arm. Does my, accident insurance cover that? And how do I make the claim? And where do I get the paperwork and all that kind of stuff? But in addition, we would help you with things like I need to find an orthopedist to go to for my arm, or a tree fell on my house. I need to make an insurance claim. I also need to get the tree removed and get my chimney fixed. And who do I call for that? And so when we went out to the market to employers, a lot of them were like, yeah, insurance is fine, but I'm overwhelmed by health insurance. But this hassle helper thing is really cool. Can I just have hassle helper? And we
Wow.
were like, no, you can't because it's like a package. And after we heard that enough times, we said, okay, clearly there's a real need here. And we pivoted, changed the name to Life Concierge because it was more than just hassles, right? It's trying to help you with all kinds of areas of your life. And really just focused on how do we help people solve problems, answer questions, get help, get things done, get things off their plate. And the weird thing about us, at least weird to me, there's two weird things from my perspective. One is that this is the first time I've really been part of a tech-enabled services business as opposed to really like a pure technology play, which has been really interesting and very related to blended workforces. And then second, we just help with such a wide variety of stuff. So, for example, we actually had somebody who had a child's surgery canceled because the hospital fell out of network with the health insurance company. And we were able to work with the hospital to get it back into network, like to get it back into compliance so that the surgery could continue. So really like major things, we had somebody whose child was diagnosed with a severe learning disability and just like didn't know where to start in doing research and understanding the problem and getting help. But then we also have things like, I want to plan my 30th birthday party, or I need a gift for my uncle, or, stuff like that, which doesn't really like affect your life necessarily, but it's just stuff that you need to get done and that is distracting. We also help with a huge variety of topics. So like I said, personal finance is a big one, mostly because I'm so passionate about it. Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like we have a huge number of, I have an old 401k from an old employer and I have no idea where it is. And like, I mean, that's a big deal. And
It
it's
is.
ridiculous that it's so hard to figure out. So we help people find them, get them rolled over somewhere, just like I need to know about tax credits for my electric vehicle, stuff like that. And then we do a lot of the medical billing. That's real popular. We do a lot of travel, a ton of travel requests. We do a lot of like finding childcare, managing childcare, a lot of sandwich generation. I need to find a home health aide for my parent. I'm navigating Medicare. Where do I go? And on one hand, I think you mentioned like you've heard of companies sort of trying to do what we're doing, but maybe like not doing it in the sort of way we're doing it. I think one, because we sort of organically evolved to this point, like I would never have been able to conceive of overalls from scratch the way it currently exists. And I think it just evolved in a really natural way that ended up making sense. And then two, I think, the use of technology is really interesting here because, we can't possibly have on-call experts in every single detail of every single area of life. Like we can't have somebody who knows all about plumbers in Cleveland, on staff. So we have to have ways to like access that information, keep that information up to date, double check it, like share it with the team. And that's the place that we're really spending our energies with technology, is sort of building out those like knowledge bases and tools to help our team like execute. That was very long-winded. So sorry.
No, it was very helpful though. I was sitting here taking notes. So as you were talking, and a couple things popped out for me. One, it took a half a second, but then you finally listened to the market when they kept telling you, we want that hassle. I forgot what you called it,
Hassle
hassle
helpers.
something. I'm sorry.
Hassle helpers. Our
Hassle
CEO
helpers.
loves alliteration, so we have a lot of
Hassle
alliteration.
helpers.
Yeah.
And then realize, boy, this could be a spinoff, service, not spinoff, a deep service that is meeting the need for the market. And then two, using technology to help with some of that sourcing, because to your point, you'd have to hire thousands and thousands and thousands of people if they had to research it on their own. But leveraging technology to expedite that would be great. And I'm curious about how you all do staff. Do you just depend upon technology, or do you have leads in like a major area, like a lead over financial
Yeah, that's
inquiries
a
that
good
come in? How does
question.
that really work?
So we're really committed to keeping humans in the loop. We do not want to automate away the human. And one reason, there's a few reasons for that, but one big one is that we really find that people are just so grateful to get like a human who is willing to help them, which I mean, it's a bummer, but like, there's an article in the New York Times today about how like, even having like a chaplain come visit you in the hospital is such a luxury because it's like a real human who like shows
Yeah.
up and listens to you. And so even when we're not able to solve something, so for example, let's say there's an insurance bill that ultimately we just can't, like it's not resolvable. It's just like isn't resolvable. We see that people really appreciate just having somebody like on the journey with them and like making sure they've exhausted their options. And two, we just think humans are going to do like a better job. And so we have full-time life concierge team of people all in the US, all sort of various backgrounds, various specialties. And then in addition to that, we have what we call the Life Concierge Network. And that actually, it kind of started with like mom friends of myself and Allison, our chief operating officer. So we knew a lot of people that had careers and were now, staying home with kids, either permanently or part like for a few years, who had really specialized skills. So we have somebody who's an expert in elder care. We have someone, an expert in HR related stuff. So they're able to like use their skills. Like they have these skills, they have this knowledge and they want to put it to work, but there's
Yeah.
no sort of like good place to do that.
Right.
So we started recruiting those folks and saying, look, you can do this job like when you want, part-time, that kind of thing. And that actually worked out really well. So we've expanded that network. It's not just moms, but it's all kinds of different people who are re-entering the workforce or looking for part-time work, or we have some people that are retired and they'll take like specific categories of requests.
Yeah.
And then in addition, we have what we call overalls experts. So those are people we can call for specialized questions. So if it's like a specialized legal question or financial question or whatever, we have folks that we can send the question out to. We don't expect the life concierges to necessarily be able to answer like really sophisticated, like
Sure.
specialty questions. And so that's our team right now. And on the tech
Nice.
side, what we're really trying to do is make those folks as efficient as possible. And then also eventually, probably there's certain kinds of requests that we could automate and say, like, if it's, within this bucket of stuff,
Right.
maybe you get the option of just taking the self-service automated version or escalating it to a human. And then another thing that we're focused on is, and this is where I'm saying we're coming back to sort of our initial vision, like it keeps popping back up. I keep going into my files and being like, oh, here's that design from, 3 years ago. Like,
Right.
still relevant, really helping people make use of their benefits. So right now, again, like benefits are still confusing, and maybe you have an internet, or maybe you have a PDF. Like literally, I looked at a benefits PDF the other day and there was a whole page that just talked about how you should drink more water. And so it's like, this 40-page document that you have to read through, including like a whole page on drinking
Drinking
water,
water. Yep.
to figure out like, how do I have access to any like legal consultations or something like that? So we're really starting to be a hub for like understanding and making use of your benefits, especially those sort of secondary or like niche benefits that
Yep.
you have. And that's a place where technology is super helpful, because we can ingest information about benefits and organize it and surface it and say like, okay, do you have children? Well, then, here's some benefits that might be relevant to
Right.
you. Those kinds of things, both for the life concierges to use and potentially for the end users to use too.
I love that. I know one of the folks we interviewed was a company that used AI to help with company handbook and resources. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but we had interviewed one which was something similar. They had a knowledge base for the more common, repetitively asked questions, but then, for the details, you could escalate to an actual person to
Yeah.
actually talk to. But it actually decreased the inquiries about 60% because they could get, the basics from that tech solution that they implemented. Two quick things that popped for me when you were just talking. One, I noticed on the website you asked that the inquiries that folks have be meaningful inquiries, not just can you reserve a table, a local restaurant. It needed to be something a tad one step above that
Yeah.
versus is that still true?
I mean, we'll do any request. Like if you ask us to reserve a table, we'll reserve a table. That's not a problem. There's two things. One is we've really found like one for the business model to work, if you're doing sort of like day-to-day basic tasks, those are going to happen a lot more frequently and be a lot more sort of resource intensive. And you're going to end up having to hire like very low paid people,
Yeah.
either offshoring or like paying people really low wages here. And like that is just not like that is a thing that maybe many of us need and would like to have, but it's just we didn't see it as like we saw like there was a mismatch between the actual cost of that service,
Yeah. It's not
either
a high
in
ROI to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and really like treating your staff as a real cost center at all, and trying to like I don't know, it just didn't really work
No,
out for
it
us.
makes sense. It totally makes
Yeah.
sense. I was just trying to help the listeners clarify, what I mean, it's great to hear that you would do that, but some of those really meaty, intense type of things that really are impacting your work, it would be best used for that.
And they don't have to be like life changing. Like again, like the 30th birthday party, we've done a ton of like I need to find bridesmaids gifts
Oh,
for
yeah.
people. It's just like we're not an instant response
Yeah.
either. Like we're trying to really devote our resources to just like kind of that next level up of complexity or knowledge or attention. And so we're not like a day-to-day personal assistant. Like personally, I think that's something that's going to get automated. Already a lot of folks are doing like starting to automate it. And I think within a couple of years, it's going to be fairly successful. I think we're really looking at the stuff that's just a little bit harder, a little bit more complex, a little bit more annoying or frustrating or confusing.
Yeah, I think that's a great way that you all are differentiating yourselves, and it will probably have a lot longer runway than just the kind of personal assistant type of things. Now, question I had was, do you sell the service just to employers, part of a additional benefit, or can a layperson sign
Yeah.
up?
Our main distribution is through employers. And the reason for that is one, we're always looking for kind of win-win-wins whenever possible. So,
Sure.
like you said, I mean, we really do see like a huge level of distraction and stress at work that, we're never going to take away 100%. But if we can make a dent in that, then that's really valuable to employers as well as employees.
Yeah.
So that's one piece of it. And the other piece is again on the financial model, like, we have really high engagement rates for a benefit. We're seeing 50-60% registration and usage rates, which is high for a benefit.
Yeah.
But when you have an individual user, like they're far more likely to just like they're going to use it 100% of the time and they're going to use it super frequently. And again, you kind of have to charge a
Appropriately.
significant amount for that. And so there's a little bit of that sort of business model of almost like health insurance where, if like a lot of people are using it and getting a great experience, that's great. And you're subsidizing that a little bit by the folks that haven't used it. We are very explicitly finding ways to make sure that we want to encourage usage and we want like as much usage as possible. Like we always want to align our incentives with the employer's incentives, with the user's incentives, with the life concierge's incentives. And I think that's one thing that we're really skilled at as a team. But you can technically buy an individual account. We used to have it through the website. I can't remember if we still have it up there, but technically you can. It's not a distribution channel we're really focused on.
Gotcha. And is it considered for the employers that pick it up, is it considered a voluntary benefit where they would sign up and then the employee would pay a premium, or is it incorporated into their standard benefits and the employer just covers the cost and you just manage the utilization?
Yeah, right now it's the employer covers the cost. It's a per covered participant model, and employers seem to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic model. That's why I'm so curious about it as well. I wish I had that when I was in corporate. So it is a fantastic service. Well, gosh, time is flying by, but I wouldn't be remiss if I did not ask you questions about your story as being a female in tech. And my listeners know I worked for Microsoft for almost 14 years and have consulted with a million tech companies,
Yeah.
literally in the consulting space. But how has your journey been? What would you love to share about the struggle of a female, especially in a high growth tech firm, helping to co-lead a high growth tech firm?
I would say it's just gotten leaps and bounds better. So I started in tech in 2008, and there were very few women in the
Yeah,
tech portion of the business. So I was a product manager, and I would always go somewhere and they'd say, "Oh, are you in marketing?" Marketing's great, but they just assumed because I was a woman, I wasn't an engineer or a product manager on the technical side of the business. And I think the people I interacted with on a day-to-day basis were always great, like the other engineers, but it was just sort of this assumption that like women didn't know technology or weren't interested in technology. That was tough. And it was also kind of in the early days of I would say the second startup boom after the .com era, it was much harder to start a company. Now there's so many third-party servers. When AppNexus was started, you couldn't rent server, like Amazon's cloud services were just getting
I
started. Like,
remember.
people
Yeah.
had server closets. They had physical closets like in their living room with
Yeah,
servers
I
running.
remember.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think in order to start a business in that world, you have to be like, you always have to be a little bit oblivious, or not oblivious, but like, have a little disconnect with reality to start a company, because most companies fail and it takes a lot of work and effort.
Yes.
But I think then you had to have even more of that. And it tended to be like more sort of aggressive bro culture who's like, I'm going to rule the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't know if it's changed as much as I think it's changed, or if it's just that I've changed and I've gotten, more senior,
I
but
think it's changed because I work with
yeah,
a lot of high growth tech companies, helping them build their people infrastructures. And I think it's changed. Now, I won't say it's all gone away,
no.
but that environment has definitely evolved.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, and I think, there's so many more women just in tech, women engineers, women product managers, there's more women executives. And then I will also say that like, I do think you have to kind of pick the company culture
Yeah.
that works for you. I mean, like John, our CEO, is like, hey, we work really hard and we need to move fast and we need to get things done. But also, like, if you're like, I have to take my kid to a pediatrician appointment at 2:00, no big deal. Like, no
Go
one's going to
do it.
bat an eyelash. And I think that I do think also the pandemic helped with that. I mean, I think before the pandemic, especially women would never put on their calendar, like, leave for kids' choir concert,
No,
like, important meeting
not
with
at all.
investors or something, and
Right.
you wouldn't admit that you like had kids or like liked your kids.
You
And
just
I
worked
think
it in some kind of way
yeah, yeah,
quietly.
you're like, no, all I care about is work, I
Yeah.
swear. And I think during the pandemic, we just got to see into everybody's houses and like,
Yeah.
it just became more normal to admit that you had children and maybe you like them and maybe like you care about your job and love your job and do a great job, but like you also like your kids.
Yeah.
And for me personally, that's just been like a huge relief. And I'm just trying to make sure that we keep that, that we don't like, again, obviously, like we work really, really hard and we love our jobs, but like making sure that we keep that level of support and that culture at our company as we grow.
I love that. And I think it'll be very important. It seems it's really in your all's DNA, especially with your lead concierges and all that kind of stuff. It's built in and then it's embraced. And I'm so happy that it's working fantastically for you all. So keep it up. Keep up the great work. Well, unfortunately, we're running a little bit short on time, but I cannot let you get out of here, Emily, without answering our signature question. As you are aware, I wrote a book on some of the critical success factors of top leaders across the globe. And it was based on research that we had done. And out of it came 7 tactics that every exemplary leader made sure that they focused on. And we always love to ask our guests, because no matter where you work, whether it's in a startup or at a corporate employer or wherever, you always are having to be a strong leader in what you do and where you show up. So you were so kind to share that leading with entrepreneurship really resonated with you. All 7 are applicable and you use them at different times, but we always love to see which one really popped for you. And for my new listeners, leading with entrepreneurship is all about building up the whatever organization or environment that you're working in, empowering it by identifying new opportunities to improve operations, products, services, or resources that they have. It's all about innovation and making things better. So Curious Minds wants to know, Emily, why did entrepreneurship really pop for you?
I think that, especially in a startup environment, but in all environments, it's not enough for a certain group of people at the company to be thinking entrepreneurially. And as a leader or a manager, I really like to make it clear what the goals are and, if there's any constraints, but then say, all right, it's up to you guys to get us there. So if you're using a process or a spreadsheet or working on a feature and you feel like there could be an improvement, I really want to make sure that the team is empowered to make those kind of micro adjustments throughout the organization. And I think that results in a much better, like a more efficient organization and just a much better product in general.
Love that. And it also gives everyone an opportunity to be heard or shared. It doesn't mean you adapt everything everybody recommends, but it brings into the consciousness ways to continuously do things better or offer better services or please your clients and customers. And that alone is just gold, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, this has been such a joy and pleasure chatting with you. We will have information such as your bio, links to where they can find the company and learn more about you and what you all are doing in the show notes. But we always love to give airtime for you to be able to share as well. So can you share where people can find you and the company?
Yeah, so we're available at getoveralls.com. And if you're an employer interested in learning more, there's information in a submission form on the site. And we would like to reach as many people as possible and hopefully make a real difference.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Emily, for the gift of your time today. As I mentioned, it's just an honor to have you and to learn more about overalls and the great work y'all are doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you too, listeners, for the gift of your time today. We really appreciate your patronage for the show. We know there are literally millions of other podcasts you could be listening to, and we don't take your time lightly. We do encourage you to like and subscribe to our show. And the only ask that we have is that you share with just one friend so that we all can get smarter about blended workforces at work. Thanks a ton and see you next week. Bye-bye. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you again for listening to the Blended Workforces at Work podcast. You can check out the show notes, additional episodes, bonus resources, and also submit guest recommendations on our website at blendedworkforcesatwork.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube by searching for the name Karen Rhodes, with Karen being spelled Karan. And if you like the show, the greatest gift you can give would be to subscribe and leave a rating on your favorite podcast platform of choice. This podcast has been a production of Shockingly Different Leadership, a global consultancy which helps organizations execute their people, talent development, and organizational effectiveness initiatives on an on-demand, contract, fractional, or project basis. Huge thanks to the SDL production and editing team for a job well done. Bye for now.